to all the attendees and all the top dogs, moderators for chairing each of those roundtable discussions as well, and hope you found the experience very fruitful. Well, I just want to move this swiftly on to our conference program that we've got coming up as well. So again, welcome to Talent in Telecoms, our people and HR-centric content track. The content track in Telecoms is sponsored by Colt Technology Services, and we just want to say thank you to Kerry and the Colt team for your immense support for the track and also for the event itself. Here are the panelists for the discussion, but before I actually introduce to them, I want to actually give Kerry the opportunity to say what Talent in Telecoms actually means for Colt, and yeah, as immense voice of the industry. So, Kerry, all yours.
Thank you. I'm being put on the spot here, so I may not be as articulate as I normally am, but I do want to say that talent is our top problem in this industry, and I think it's why you're seeing Colt in particular sponsor these types of events and these type of panels. Because if you look at what's happening, we're going to hit a retirement cliff. Sorry, I think everybody's coming in. I'll just give everybody a minute to settle. Come on in, grab a seat. All right, everybody settled? Or close? Sounds quieter. All right, so I have to say this panel that is going to happen here in a minute has some amazing individuals that genuinely care about talent for the industry. And so I think you're going to hear some fantastic things. But what I was going to say is that talent is our biggest problem in this industry, and we need to take it very seriously. We are going to hit a retirement cliff as an industry here in the next 5 years, where a large majority of the industry is going to move out, and what we need to make sure is that we're paying attention to how we're actually bringing people in. We are now at a situation where the majority of the services, of the software, of the innovation that we create requires the same skills of every other industry that participates in the digital universe, which means every company that exists. So as that happens, we have to find ways to be creative, to be innovative, and to be driven and focused as much as we are in rolling out our mobile infrastructures, rolling out our fiber infrastructures, and developing the infrastructure of people around us to be successful. So with that, I will introduce the panel and ask the panelists to come up, and I'll turn it back over to Capacity. Thank you.
So, entering the panelists onto the stage, we have Eric Seavis, the President of Global Wholesale at Verizon Partner Solutions, Ruth Redding, Vice President of North Europe for Infinera, Vicky Slight, who will be moderating discussion. She is the VP, Human Factor and D&I at TM Forum. Oliver Camplin-Warner, CEO of International for Telstra. He'll be doing a presentation very, very shortly. Oliver, if you can maybe step up onto the lectern as well, because we've got your presentation on the GOF Talent Survey right up, I know. And Gary Hope as well, who's last but not least, but the Strategy and Transformation and Regulation Director for Telefonica Global Solutions. I'll allow, first of all, Oliver to do some opening slides of the GOF Talent Survey. So over to you. Yeah? Oh, yeah, of course, Vicky, go ahead.
Am I on? Thank you so much. Yes, thank you, Kerry, for that great introduction. As Kerry said, the war for talent is real, and it's not just us that are fighting for those digital skills and those young people. It's every other single industry. So what we've been doing as TM Forum, which, for those of you that don't know, is a membership organization. And we work closely with Eric and the GLF. And we're a member organisation that breaks down cultural barriers and technological barriers to further the work of the industry. So this is really, really important to us, along with culture transformation. And as Kerry said, we've been doing a lot of work actually going out and talking to young people, to graduates, working with the likes of Zayo as well, but with University of Colorado, the School of Mines out in Colorado, and also Bristol University, talking to students, undergraduates, postgraduates in Brazil, India, China, the UK, the US, but actually talking to the universities as well. And what we thought in the few sessions that we've had as a talent consortia is that we've got an industry branding problem. And you know what? Sometimes when you talk to these people, you turn everything on its head and say, okay, it's not what we thought it was. What they've said to us is, no, you've got an invisibility problem. There's no such thing as a telco case study on most of these university courses, and there needs to be, although the research has told us so far that where there is, then those students are more likely to go into telecoms. So we think there's 3 buckets. There's the recruitment piece. The recruitment is not right. It takes too long. Nobody of that generation wants to do 5 interviews and go through all of that, so we're looking at that. The other bucket is the reskilling, which I'm hoping to hear a lot about that today on the panel. And the third one is the retention piece. Because unless you get your inclusive culture right, diversity is absolutely pointless. You will not keep it if your inclusion is not what it should be. So that's another thing that we need to get back. And also, just hearing from the top dogs, it was great to hear the last part of that session, particularly because, and I'm hoping this is what we're going to hear more of, we actually need to bring sexy back. Because the perception of this industry that we are hearing from these young people is they think it's boxes, wires, climbing up telegraph poles, and we know that it's not, but they don't. So it's so important that we listen to this. So I am going to hand over to Oliver now, and he's going to take us through the talent report from the GLF and some of the key findings, which we can then refer back to. So Oliver, over to you.
Amazing. Hi everyone, I'm Oliver. Nice to meet you all. Could not agree more with what Kerry said in terms of, like, we really are at a tipping point. But I'm going to focus on what one of our youngsters just said. Sorry, Eduardo, to do this again. Eduardo was just in our session just then, and he asked the question, he said, hey, GLF, are you spending as much time focusing on people as you are on projects and latest tech things and everything else? And the reality is, we haven't been. We spent a bit of time on it, and we've kind of looked at it from time to time, but we haven't been spending as much time as we should. But as a board, we are absolutely committed to changing that. We are absolutely committed to changing that, and I couldn't be more excited in terms of sort of some of the plans that we've got moving forward. So that's going to change. We're going to absolutely double down in this space, and I've been asked to sort of take the lead role in terms of putting that together. So what I wanted to share today is, this was a quick survey that we ran across the whole of GLF. So we ran a survey across the board, across the community as well, just to share sort of some of their findings and some of their thoughts. So hopefully this works. So the first question we asked them were the types of behaviors. So which leadership behaviors do you believe are critical for successful leadership? Now, I can't quite get over. So, ability to inspire and empower is the top skill and capability that the board believe is required. Then you've got strategic and critical thinking and authenticity and self-awareness as well. So that was, thank you so much, Annabelle. Next question, what are the most important skills that you look for in an emerging leader within your organization? So when you're looking at an up-and-coming individual, what are the 3 most important skills? Curiosity and growth mindset was the standout. Communication skills, and then people development as well, their ability to actually develop individuals. Next up, what are the key functional capabilities that you believe your successor will need to master? And here, organization transformation came out on top, followed by strategy development, and then financial management, P&L, balance, commercial, all things commercials. And then there was a conversation around dedication to talent development. And this is the part where I get excited, right? The rest of the staff, okay, cool, there were some good insights there. But we asked the board how committed they are to developing the leaders of the future moving forward. How committed are they to looking at sort of some of the points that you just beautifully spoke to? And what you can see here was the amount of time people spend today and the amount of time they're willing to spend moving forward. And then 89% saying that they are willing to play a mentoring role moving forward to ensure that our future is a bright one. In terms of some of the key things we need to focus on, here you can see a host of different areas. Culture was the one which came out loud and clear. We work in an incredible industry. You've heard that from Kerry. You've heard about the purpose, the incredible difference we make around the world day in, day out. That was the number one piece that we really need to sort of focus on, purpose, and then company culture. And then finally, I thought I'd just leave this little teaser slide for you. So there's some incredible work that you heard about earlier that TM Forum are leading. But we, as GLF, believe there's an opportunity to pull together a top talent program for our successors. So those individuals we think should be taking our roles in the next sort of year or so. So we're going to be putting together a top talent program over the coming months, looking at Annabelle, which we'll hopefully be able to announce at Capacity Middle East. We'll be focusing on diversity. We need to make sure that diversity is front and center here. It's not where it needs to be today. And then we'll start to pull together a program which is really something very special, very unique to all of us. So that was just a few thoughts from the board. With that, over to you.
Thank you, Oliver, and some great insights there. And so now I'm really pleased to bring in our fantastic panel. This is an interactive session, and I believe you can ask questions on Slido, and they will come up, and we'll get to as many as we've got time for. So, Eric, over to you. And in terms of what you want to get out of this session, what is it that you would want to get out of it? And tell us what you're doing about the whole talent piece and what that means to you.
No, thanks so much, Vicki. And representing Verizon, clearly a lot of work in this area. We're really big. I think we have 4 constituent groups we talk about so often. It's clearly our employees, our customers, our shareholders, and society. Those are the big 4 in Verizon. And so we're really spending a lot of time working each and every one of those. But specific to the topic at hand is under the people area. And I am on an HR panel where they bring the business unit presidents in to really sit down and understand what are we trying to care for. We've created a program we call Talent Works. And what Talent Works is all about is hearing from the voice of our customer or our employees in this case, as well as what are we hearing in the industry. For the first time ever, we're finding that people with 3 years or less of service are moving quicker than we've ever seen in the history. I've been in the company 36 years. Or directors in the business are moving because the hyperscalers and the FANG accounts, for example, are really attracting right now some of the discussion. So what we're trying to do is 3 pillars under Talent Works, and then I'll move on. One is attract. What do you do to attract talent? And so we have a task force really looking at attracting talent, partnering with colleges and universities, STEM programs in high school, so we get to them early and help them understand that they're sexy in telecom. At the end of the day. So attract is one pillar. The second pillar is what we're doing in develop. Once you have the talent, how do you invest in the talent and making sure that we're training and developing them on the products and services, as well as beyond the product and service about their own well-being and providing things like flexibility, hybrid work schedules, giving balance of work. I always say I have not necessarily work-life balance, but I have work-life boundaries. And what does that look like? Helping people to understand, be your genuine self and bring your authentic self to work each and every day, whether it's your home office or the physical office. And then the last one, Vicki, to your question, attract being 1, 2 being develop. The third pillar is inspire. How do we inspire a culture where folks are excited about working in the telecom space, the opportunities that come with that particular space? And to break down that pillar of inspire, it's 3 areas for us. Making sure employees feel that they're engaged, they're empowered, and they're acknowledged for the work they do every day. 2, communication, transparent, genuine, helping them understand what we're doing for them in the business. And then lastly, how do we really take the time to recognize? How do you recognize folks throughout the business? It doesn't have to just be top down. It can be peer to peer. It can be bottoms up. But we want everyone to feel free that they have access to dollars, that they can recognize a teammate when they've done something to help us. So that's really where we're going, Vicki. We're taking this on with HR, but we don't think it's a human resource only issue. We think the business units need to own it, and the CEO down are endorsing this for the work that we're doing across attract, develop, and really inspire employees.
That's great. Thanks, Eric. And I'm glad you brought that up, because although executives understand this problem, one of the problems is a lot of the time the execution gets left with the CHRO, and this is a business critical imperative. And with that, thank you, Eric. Gary, I want to come to you. Can you help me with a myth? I want to dispel this myth that we are just looking for technology talent.
Yeah, obviously, I mean, for a business to function, we need talent across every area of the business. We want the best talent out there in our business, so it's not just digital profiles that we're looking for. We need people with human skills, leadership skills, people skills, people with creative skills. But to be honest, at least in Telefonica where we're operating, we're not having great difficulty in covering those profiles. Something I read there last week, 60% of businesses, not telcos, but 60% of businesses in Spain are having serious problems. They're struggling to cover or to fill the positions with those digital profiles. Over last year in Spain, which is one of the main markets where we operate, there were over 300,000 job vacancies that remain unfilled. A lot of them, or the majority of them, in technology roles. And this is in a country with relatively high unemployment. So it gives you an idea of the challenge that we face, no? So at Telefonica, what we're looking to do, and what we have done over the last couple of years, we obviously work with the universities, and that we've tried to think outside the box a little. We have our innovation and talent hub, which has a number of different elements, including our corporate university. We're investing over between now and 2024, which is our 100th anniversary, over 100 million euros in the program. And what we're doing is, for all of our current employees, over 100,000 employees will pass through the corporate university in various programs every year. But what for me, one of the programs that for me I think is really exciting is, I don't know if you've heard of Campus 42. It's something that started out in 2013, and it started, I think it was the Iliad Group, Paris, and later Silicon Valley. And it's now 42 campuses in 25 countries. With the Telefonica Foundation, we launched in Spain in four campuses in Madrid, Malaga, Barcelona, and the Basque Country. And it's really cool because it's open to everybody. Obviously not employees too if they want, but it's open to everybody in the country. It's free. You don't need any previous experience in programming. It's really innovative, the model that they use, which is peer-to-peer learning, right. And they use gaming for it. And what we're doing through that is we're in the projects they're working on, we're identifying people with the profile that we're looking for to then incorporate into the business.
And that's great, I think, in terms of looking for that profile. And that sounds great. I could do with some upskilling myself, so I'll be on at you afterwards to see how I get myself into this university. If you don't ask, you don't get. And so, Ruth, I want to bring you in, because obviously in Venera, so vendor community, it's obviously a little bit different. How does it differ for you in terms of what you're facing?
So two distinct themes, I think, and I've spoken to colleagues around the world kind of in preparation for today. The first is, I think in our sales community, we are going to face the retirement cliff that Kerry mentioned, probably before a lot of you are going to face it. We really are at a point where a lot of our people in our sales and sales engineering community are of an older generation, and we are therefore really looking at how we bring in a younger generation, either through upskilling people within our organisation into sales, or looking to external external industries and external, and to universities to start hiring in. So that's on the sales side. On the development and software development side, on the product development side, we are very specialist. We're a photonic company. So the graduates who come out of university with degrees in photonics want to come to us because, we're one of the world leaders. So that's a good place to be. We don't really have a problem there, which is a great place to be. We're not blessed with that in every part of our organization. However, on the software side, we tend to have in this industry quite heavy software release programs, 4 times a year, and then we have to integrate it into Verizon's network, and that takes another 6 months, and all those kind of things. It's very, very heavy. Whereas the graduates coming out, software engineering graduates, want something much more agile. So I think we have, as an industry, have to look at how we develop. And I really like the idea of the campus network. How do we develop and learn from that into a more agile, software-focused industry? Because at the moment, we're not quite attracting the talent we need.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. And it's great to hear that as well. And I know that you've had challenges where you have actually been putting those the older generation who've been reskilled with the younger generation that's coming in.
Yeah, that's right. So we have a mentorship program internally, and we make sure that we buddy people up when they come in, when they're younger in career, and are mentored by somebody more senior, who's a peer, not necessarily their manager, to help them upskill into those roles.
That's great. Thank you, Ruth. And then, so Oliver, and feel free, the panelists, to jump in now that we've brought everybody in. What is your feeling on, I talked earlier about this invisibility issue that we've got as an industry. I still think there's a bit of a branding issue, but the invisibility issue. What's your thinking on it in terms of, collaborating, what you're doing about it?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely there. There is an invisibility issue. I think we've heard a bit about sort of the incredible things we do day in, day out around the world, and we're kind of a bit shy in terms of sort of shouting from the rooftops on what that's about. Yeah. So I think it's on us to get out there, to be a bit more vocal, to be a bit more kind of bullish around the incredible role that we do play. I once asked my network team, so that people were asking me like, hey, what do you actually do? What does Telstra International do? And I'm like, ugh. So I asked my networks team, I said, hey, can you build me a red button? And I want this red button so that if anyone ever asks that, I can basically press the red button and it will shut Telstra's network. It will shut it down. And then watch how Facebook, social media grinds to a halt. Watch how the banks grind to a halt. Watch how the whole world stops, right? That's the incredible impact we have. And I think we just need, as an industry, to promote that and celebrate it and communicate it more.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's great. Thank you. And I love the idea of that red button.
They never built it for me.
I'm getting ideas from all of you, which I will be following up with afterwards. And then, of course, if we think about it as well, there's other challenges, particularly with young talent. And particularly because I've spent so much time with graduates and listening to the research that's coming out of the universities. Hybrid working now is a thing. All of our lives have changed. I don't want to bring COVID back, but because we're trying to bring sexy back. But the hybrid working, what I'm hearing from graduates, or those even if they're 2-3 years in, they want that community, right? And they want to, they want to feel like they belong and that they can have that social network. So how are you guys dealing with that? Who wants to take that one? Anybody?
Let me jump in a little on this one. So one of the things we've tried to do is, one, kind of embrace the hybrid network of how we have employees coming back in our program we call Work Forward. And what that really has meant to our organization in the business group, 94% of our employees at 2.5, 3 years ago were full-time in the office. They're actually hybrid now. And they pick 1 to 3 days a week that they may come into the office. We only ask them to do 1. But you see 2 to 3 days coming into office. So providing that flexibility has really, I think, given a good choice and opportunity for them. Maybe 4% of the folks are really kind of full-time working in an office location, and the balance those that are working full-time at home. So it's been interesting just to offer that flexibility. so that folks can care for, whether it's distance learning, because some schools are still doing things from home, are they taking care of elder care, et cetera. And so we have found just embracing the hybrid workplace. But to your point, Vicki, around the inclusivity around that, we've had to train in tools on how do you use the hybrid so that if you have some folks, say, online on the computer and some folks in the physical room, how do you make sure everybody is included? And if you haven't had to have these skills, you may not know how to be inclusive. So we actually did a training program to allow people to understand how to use systems and tools so that everyone is engaged. And I'll purposely, in meetings that we have, and I may be in the office that day, call someone that's sitting on the screen all of a sudden, or making certain that you're asking questions to people that are not sitting in the room. At the same time, you do it for folks that are in the room so that you create an environment, even if we're not always there. At the same time, we still have functions such as a conference like this where we'll bring all the employees together so they can collaborate, they can work together. And even in your schedules now, you can actually tell folks online when you're going to be in the office so that if you need to collaborate with certain folks, you can check and decide, oh, I'm going to be in the office that day as well because this person or that person in marketing or operation network going to be there. And therefore, you can still get those groups and those communities. But we've tried to get to the point where we're more agile and flexible, and you don't need to demand that folks show up physically in a work location to collaborate and to get work done. And it just takes a little muscle tuning to know how to do that. If you've been around like me, 36 years in the industry, I always thought you always came into the office. But I can tell you, 2.5 years out, I'm having a hard time going into the office now. So that's what we've tried to do. Collaborate, use the systems and tools, and make sure you're inclusive to include everyone in the conversations so they don't lose that water cooler time, et cetera, that they used to have when they always got together face to face.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. And then I want to talk more about, so what skills are we actually missing? Where are you finding the difficulty? How are you overcoming that? Well, let's talk about the skills first.
I want to answer it slightly differently.
Okay.
I think like you, sometimes like we're okay on some of the more traditional skills. What I'm looking for more and more is those individuals and leaders who have that connection with the incredible things that we do. Some of the softer skills that you saw in some of the report earlier. That's what we're really looking out for now. We actually, I think, a few years back, we lost a lot of talent. Now a lot of talent's coming back in, actually. So there's an opportunity there, but we're looking for, I guess, a slightly different set of skills.
Yeah, and that learning mindset. Can you teach that, though, Oliver? Or is that a natural thing?
Not to everyone.
Not to everyone, yeah. That's right. Sorry, I had to ask. I know you want to say something.
I think from our point of view, it's sometimes we have to think beyond the industry as well, and transferable skills are so important. Traditionally, even in our sales engineering roles, we would hire people who may have had a photonics PhD, and frankly, they didn't need a photonics PhD to do that role. We can hire people with similar skill sets from different types of universities and different types of backgrounds to do that role and train them. It's more about the mindset of the person, as you said, than it is about the core set of skills. And so we're trying to think more broadly than just hiring from the same pool all the time.
Yeah,
I think that's
Gary,
important as well, the flexibility and moving people around throughout different areas of the business, as opposed to, 35 years ago when people came into a company and stayed in the same role for their whole working life. That can't happen anymore, because to get the leadership skills and that you need within the company, you need people who understand the entire organization and have a sort of vision of the end-to-end, no?
So doesn't that mean that we also need, and it's one thing we've been talking about at TM Forum with the Talent Consortia, is that we need leaders to be role models or to be seen as role models. Who's doing that in your organizations? How?
Yeah, we're pushing it hard on the role models and leading by example. The things I'm sharing that we're doing, the CEO is doing in the business. People with reporting individuals are leading that same way. And I think what we're finding is that, people like kind of imitating those type of role model behaviors on, how do we facilitate a meeting? Hey, our CEO took the meeting from home today. That kind of thing. I mean, the biggest thing I've had to figure out is, our CEO wears sneakers and skinny jeans every day. I missed that memo. But it's really embracing people where they are and making people feel comfortable in who they are to show up in a genuine, transparent, authentic way. And I think that makes a big difference, because if they see the C-levels doing it, or definitely if they're seeing the CEO and the leadership team doing these things, they'll tend to follow and feel more comfortable that they can show up the same way.
Great. And sorry, the only reason I haven't looked at these questions is this table's in the way, and I am quite a short person. So, sorry about that. So, first question, it's great to hear you have tools and trainings available, but how do you measure success and prove they actually work and are used? Well, interestingly enough, TM Forum, together with the industry, we have launched the Inclusion and Diversity Score. We've figured out how you measure not just diversity, but also inclusion, and then gathering the best practices around the pain points. So that's one of the first things, but I'll put that out to everybody else as well.
I think they may have responded to me mentioning that how do you actually collaborate in a hybrid environment with tools, as I said, and the training around it. We've been trying to measure one through something we call a pulse survey. So every quarter, the pulse is kind of the employee survey that we send out and get feedback. And the good part of those are the verbatims. I read every one of those because they really get true on the verbatims. And like whoever sent this anonymous thing in, you don't know who sent the question as well. But we really get a chance in the pulse survey because we'll ask discrete questions. Do you feel included when there are meetings taking place in the office and you're at home? So those type of things are put out there, and then we look to see how those scores are done, and then based upon the scores, if they're high, low, whatever, if they're high, how do we keep that going and keep it strong? If we got areas for development and improvement, we put together through HR action plans. Yeah. So we design what action are you now going to take. If your scores was a 5 out of 10, what are you going to do to get it to 7? What are you going to do to get it to 10? And every business unit has that responsibility to develop an action plan per quarter based on the feedback from the employees, so the employees know it was not wasted time, that we actually took action on what they said at the end of the day. And those are the kind of things we've done to try to measure our success, so that, hey, the next quarter when we do the pulse survey, did we get improvement in these areas of systems and tools and training in order to feel included and feel engaged in your workplace each day?
I think that's great, and also I think that people are accountable as well for those targets. And then I really like this question. I think I know who this was from as well. What could we do better to improve social mobility, which is so important, so that we can intake more talent from diverse backgrounds? Who wants to take that?
So we're taking some specific action in the US at the moment, where we're working with a group that facilitates schools, particularly from lower income areas in the US. And we have people in our organization who go and mentor and talk to those schools and encourage them to kind of interact with us. And that's at high school level. That's not at kind of university level. So we're kind of trying to do it at the very, very root of where people might be attracted to our industry, rather than doing it further up. And that's really been an initiative that's been driven by one of our employee resource groups, which is WIN, Women at Infinera, and that's come from the core of the WIN team, and we've taken that out to the market.
Great, thank you so much. And then I think as well, so as the next question says, 17, 18-year-olds have all heard of Google, Facebook, such likes, Apple, Snapchat. Not that I'm on all of them. But what about Telefonica, Colt, Verizon, Telstra, and so on?
We've got to get out there more. We've got to tell that story. We've got to be more active in all the forums. So we've got to be with the university, the schools. It's across the board. It's on us as an industry to be more vocal.
Yeah. And we do a lot of work in this area. I mean, if we think about the NFL, I mean, Verizon's out there every single time there's an NFL game, putting 5G in the stadium, making those experiences. We've done more advertising in these areas than we've ever done before. And candidly, we do partnerships with every one of those companies that you think you've heard of. So how do you boast more of the work that you're doing with all of those companies? Because those companies don't exist on their own. A lot of times they're partners of us in the network. So how do you brand and leverage that even more? NBA sponsorships, I mean, we're out there. So we've definitely been pushing the brand. One of the things we found, we got an award a couple years ago for being one of the most recognizable brands in the shortest period of time. because we changed our name to Verizon. And so it's clearly work that you need to do there so that you're not lost with the hyperscalers or that FANG accounts. But as I think, Oliver, you're right on, you just got to be out there more and be more boastful. Sometimes I think we forget, how much what we do, as someone said earlier, when COVID happened, the world couldn't communicate without the folks in this room.
Yeah.
But yet, did we leverage that? Did we leverage that brand, more than we should have? And we should do more of that, I think, going
Yeah, I
forward.
agree. And I think I want to come to each of you very, very quickly because we've only got a few minutes left and I want some last words. The question that's just come in, how many mentees do each of you have?
Probably about 10, and then 2 reverse mentees as well. So
Yeah, great, good number.
I only have 3.
I myself have 3 as well.
2.
2.
I don't want to tell you the number because my EA thinks that's my full-time job in Verizon. Literally, she's like, I don't understand this mentee thing, but I would tell you, it's hundreds of folks. And then we have programs outside the individual mentees where we do things like Verizon Leads, where we have a program where we take top talent and we assign them a mentee and a mentor type of relationship in there. So it's a full-time job.
I think as well it's really important that to not just have a mentee, but also to sponsorship.
Yes.
So you are advocating for that young person even when they're not in the room, right? And I think that's what everybody needs. I want to get a last word. We've got 3 minutes left, so I'm going to come to you, Oliver. Any parting thoughts from you?
I think the power is how we come together as an industry. Yeah. So I mean, we had a beautiful conversation earlier, right? It's like, how do we bring TM Forum, GLF together? Yeah. How do we really leverage everyone? I mean, bloody, I'm nearly swore I didn't. There's like 3,000 people here or whatever have you. Like, how do you unleash all of that? Like, if everyone was to really lean into this, I think we can definitely change it and get more credit for the incredible work that we do. And as a result, we'll then attract more talent.
Great, thank you, Oliver. Ruth?
I think it's down to us as individuals to all take some action. So, we've talked about mentees today. When we have just been through a mentorship allocation program in our company in the past few weeks, and I was really disappointed how few of my team had put their hands up to have mentees. And I think the more people actually take some action themselves, the better, because I think it is down to us as individuals.
Thank you, Ruth. Gary?
Yeah, I think, I agree that as an industry we need to move, but it's all well and good us telling us how great we are. But if we're not actually engaging with young people, we're not going to move forward. And that's why I think I don't want to keep going on about Campus 42, but that type of initiative where we're bringing young people into the organization, I think is probably the way to go for us anyway.
That's great. Thanks, Gary. And about 40 seconds, Eric.
At 40 seconds, I think it comes down to, really embracing. In the company, I use this phraseology of listen, learn, and lead with action. Take on the 3 L's, L cubed, and if you do that, you'll show up at HBCUs proactively, making certain you bring in diverse talents. You're partner with schools that are educating women, females. You're partner with Hispanic institutions. That's the type of thing we're doing as we learn to listen, learn, and then lead with actions.
That's great, thank you. And collaboration as well. As individual organisations, we can't do this on our own. This is an industry problem, and every organisation needs to get on board with this if they're going to remain sustainable and relevant over the next, not even the next 10 years, the next 5 years. So with that, I'd like to, what a great session. Thank you to our panellists. And thank you to the GLF. Thank you so much. And please don't disappear. We've got a D&I masterclass coming up right now. So thank you so much, everybody.
Do stay right there for your next session coming up with your